Start for. Something's wrong.
Well, I'm just gonna make it go.
Need this hammer?
Yeah.
Here.
Give it a minute.
Oh, hammer to fix it?
Well, we don't want that. It won't, oh, there we go. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay, we'll call to order the Newman City Council special meeting, December 17th, 2002. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, God, for bringing us here safely tonight. Please give us the guidance and the wisdom to make the right decisions for our community. And this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker?
Present.
Marquez?
Present.
Martinez?
Present.
Mayor Fanazia?
Present. Communication from staff.
None this evening, Mayor.
Okay, number 6, items from the public, non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Council and not in the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the Council from taking action on any matter which is not in the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Any non-agenda items? Okay. Items from the public, agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the council on a matter on the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor grants a longer period of time. At that time, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Item 7, interview and appointment of city council member to fill the unexpired term of council member, now Mayor Fanazia. Term expires November 2004.
Okay.
Do we want to ask one of them to leave and do it that way, or how do we want
can
to?
do that, or if you'd like to, I've presented for the council tonight. You have before you some suggested questions. Those are only suggestions. You're welcome to do as you please. I might suggest, if you'd like to, maybe ask the candidates to step out for a minute so you can discuss those, so you be consistent with asking those questions, and then we can invite them in one at a time if you would like.
Okay, if we could get the 2 candidates to step out, please. Yeah, you could go in the door right there. Thank you.
Well, that's all right for now. It's okay. Got the light there?
Have them go in the bathroom.
There's a lobby area just through the police department.
Well,
Through the locker
take
room.
them across the hall when we start. Renee, you go.
Hit him with your cane.
Okay,
I think part of our discussion on our last meeting was our assessment for our questions. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought we were going to limit our questions to 2 apiece. Is that correct? Do you recall
2
that?
questions per
2
candidate?
questions per, 2 questions per council member.
Okay.
I think that's the way we discussed it.
We only have 5 questions here unless somebody else has another
I
question
did
they want to.
develop a couple
Do
of
you?
my own.
I have my own.
That's fine.
And the other thing was that we were going to make sure that the questions were at least consistent.
Ask the same questions of each candidate, as I recall.
Okay.
And I think that was the only other consideration.
Right.
I like the format that's here about the candidate introducing themselves, then we go into our question each, and then they summarize with a final statement.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Bob?
Yes, fine.
Okay.
I'd like to take question number 3, and I just would be consistent and ask that of all candidates.
Okay. I guess I'll take number 1.
Councilmember Parker and Marquez, you said you have your own
I've
question.
developed 2 questions.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to ask something off of 5, but I have one other one of my own.
And just for clarification, Mr. Mayor, you're limiting your question to 1, to the one that you chose?
If you're not taking any of the other ones on here, I will probably take number 5.
Okay, number 1 and 5.
Yes.
I'm limiting mine to 1.
And you're going to limit yours to 1? Okay.
And then we'll just skip 2 and 4 then?
Yes, I have
Okay.
2 additional questions.
That's fine. Okay. Any preference? I guess it doesn't matter who you want to bring in first, or?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. What we're going to do is Judy will take the other one across to the city council chambers, or
Okay.
the city hall, to
Okay.
the lobby over there, so it's a little more comfortable over there than in this room. So go ahead, Judy.
We can just do it in the order that it's in? I don't know.
That's
Doesn't
We'll
matter.
Take Alan Evans first.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's alphabetical order too, so.
There you go.
Mr. Evans, what we're going to do is ask you to introduce yourself, and then there'll be questions from each council member, and we'll allow you to make a final statement.
All right. My name is Alan Pearson Evans. I live at 1531 Gorget Court, right here in Newman.
Thanks.
Well, I guess I can begin since I'm here on the end.
Go ahead, Tim. Yes.
I would like to ask the first question I would pose to you. With the overwhelming state budget deficit, how do you think Newman may be affected?
You know, I think we're on our own, folks. We're just going to have to kick our city manager out and see if he can't drum up some business and get some businesses in here to create some revenue other than depending on the state and federal funds.
Okay. And my second question I'd like to pose to you is, how do you feel about accountability to the public and responsiveness from the council level down?
I think that the council is totally accountable for their actions. I don't see, or I haven't seen anything where the council has been pulled out and strung up by their neck. But if there was such a problem, I'm sure that that the mayor could appoint an outside person to come in, such as the county council or something to handle things until that was straightened out. If I'm reading your question correctly.
Yes, I could give you some clarification. Just the fact that, to whom are we most accountable to? And I think you kind of answered that.
The people's.
Yes. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Charles? Alan, I have one question only, and I just want to go a little further than Tim went with regard to the state budget. It's pretty sizable. We're looking at $21 billion plus at this point. What specifically, though, I mean, do you see in terms of development for the city of Newman, be it on our highway, in our industrial area, downtown. What can we do? What role can the redevelopment agency play? What role can we play to be far more aggressive than we've been to generate revenue?
Well, the only sign I've seen regarding Newman outside of right here is the exit on the freeway. That's the only advertisement that Newman does. Nobody knows we're here. Nobody knows we have good food, that we make cheese, that we we have a garage for the cars that break down on the freeway. We're a spot on the map that nobody knows about. I've talked to many people that has come through here and said, "Oh, this is a darling place. I didn't know that it existed." And, you know, it's a shame that we should advertise that we are here.
Bob?
Alan, of course, we have a lot of concerns in the city, but what I'm interested in, what do you think is the most pressing concern facing Newman today?
I would say the young people in their lower 20s that are hanging around jobless, not looking for a job, that just drive around with their speakers pounding and harassing our citizens, our good citizens. My neighbor is afraid to walk his dog, and he has a German Shepherd. He's afraid to walk his dog for fear of the people across the way will let their pit bull out. You know, it's gotten to that. These people they hang around the park, drinking beer by the quart. It's just terrible. The people graduate here. You all right, Bob?
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Well, you caught my bug quick, huh?
Sorry.
It seems like the students graduate and they just hang here. They don't go any further. They don't get out and seek a further education or higher education. They just linger, and that makes for bad cabbage in the parks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alan, I had a couple questions. What's your position on the current growth the city's experiencing and future possible growth?
I'm for growth, but in that growth we need money, and again I think we should beat up our city manager and get him out there and bring in the business to offset what little change we get from the taxpayers.
And finally, Alan, what's your reason and motivation for seeking this appointment to the council?
To try to put into action or put into motion the items I've just talked about.
Okay. And if you'd like to make any closing remarks, final statement, you're welcome.
Yes, I would. As all of you know, I've worked here for 15, 16 years, a long time. I know the city and this department very well. I know just about everybody in town, and their brother. I think I can be a very good councilman and be politically correct while doing so. And I think I think I'm the man for the job. Not having any experience at being a councilman would be your job to teach me at first. And then I could take the ball and run on my own.
Okay, Al, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Alan.
Well, do you want him to stay out, or can he just stay in here now? I don't think there's.
I
any-
think he should be better
You want him
switch.
out? Okay.
Yeah.
You can go.
Go with
Judy will take
Judy
you over
will-
to the lobby area, City Hall.
I think it actually would be proper, once we conduct the second interview of the other applicant, then for our concessions, do we want to have them both in during our concessions, or both exit and then brought in once whatever decision we've made has happened?
We normally
Yeah,
bring them
discuss
in
it.
after the.
Bring them in after the concession?
I think
That's
so,
what I
yeah.
thought.
Bob, is that okay with you?
That sounds fine.
Too bad we didn't have a commercial to run, huh? Advertisement. Dave, we're going to ask you to, excuse me, introduce yourself, and there'll be questions from the council. And then in the end, we'll allow you to make a final statement if you wish.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I'm Dave Reed, 1541 Kern Street, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have. And I'll, unless you want me to say something first, why?
We'll start with the questions. Tim?
Yes, David, I'd like to ask you the first question. With the overwhelming state budget deficit, how do you think our town will be directly affected?
I think it's going to be a rough 2 years at least, maybe more than that. I think that depending on what the state does, if they take the BLF backfill fees, some of their things, they may have to cut services. One way to get around that, we may get some citizen involvement to kind of offset some of this, but it's going to be a rough 2 years at least.
Okay. And my second question I'd like to pose is, how do you feel about accountability to the public and responsiveness from the level of the city council down? And if you need some clarification.
How would I like to see it, or?
Some
how-
clarification
how I
on
think
the
it is
question.
now?
To whom do you feel we're most accountable to?
The citizens, the voters. And I think that it's important that we have better contact with them. That I think that we're missing something by not getting the input of the voters. I think some of the fault is theirs, that they just don't come out, but I think we can do a better job to get them to come out and tell us what their thoughts are, their problems, what they think is good about the city, what they think is bad about the city, and to kind of help us out.
Okay, thank you.
Dave, Tim had asked the question, or regarding the state budget deficit, and we all know what kind of financial situation that we're in, and we know what the state may or may not do. But specifically, beyond that, what can we do as a community to overcome some of these revenue shortfalls that we're going to be facing in the future? What can we specifically do?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think that we can try again to get some citizen involvement, volunteerism, to do some of the things that the city is doing right now. That, for instance, we started off with this Adopt-a-Pot program. I think this could be expanded into the park system and things like that, where the citizens can do the work that city crews are doing now if we would have to cut services. And I feel that I think the budget's under control right now. If, like I say, if we lose the VLF fees and some other things like that, we may have to dip into the reserves, and I feel that if that becomes necessary, it's probably going to be a couple years, and the city probably would face bankruptcy.
Bob?
Yeah, David, there's a lot of concerns facing our city today, but what do you think is the most pressing concern that Newman is facing today?
Right now, I think that our infrastructure is getting behind with the growth. Growth's getting ahead of the infrastructure, I should say. And I think that we have a lot of housing on the books right now. And when it's complete, it'll probably take us up to around 10,000, 12,000 people. At that time, I think that we ought to probably step back and look at ways of financing the infrastructure to a point where it's paid for before or by the people that are going to be building and moving in, so that we don't have this same problem now once we get everything caught up, hopefully.
Thank you, David.
Dave, I had a couple questions. What's your position on the current growth and the future growth the city's experiencing at this time?
Well, I think that you have to grow or die. And I think that what we have, the growth we have right now on the books and what is being built is a little ahead of what we really need. I think that after this is done, I think we can scale back, and we'll still have growth. I think be controlled, and so to the point we can still maintain our quality of living, possibly improve on it, keep more or less a small town atmosphere.
And Dave, finally, what's your reason and motivation at this time for seeking appointment to the council?
I feel that I've had 4 years' experience. I think that I can help the council to go along. I feel that I can get along with everyone. I have over the past several years, and I think that we really are going to have to step back and really take issue with the upcoming problems. And also, I do have a good rapport, I think, with the other cities and the county, and I think that it's important that we maintain relations with them and not just be down here stuck on our own. We had enough problems just the west side not really being recognized. I think we're to the point now where they do recognize us, and I think we've got to keep that voice out there.
Thank you, Dave. And if you'd like to make a final statement?
I think that your questions have covered just about everything, and I would look forward to serving on the council again, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David.
We're going to have you step back across the street. Judy will escort you.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, discussion, comments, motions.
Well, I'm ready to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that David Reed be placed on the council.
I will second that. However, before you call for the question, I would have some discussion.
Sure, Tim.
I am appreciative of having the two applicants that we've had come before us. I want to state on behalf of Alan, in terms of his service to the city, that was duly noted. I know that he was a police officer here for nearly 15 years. And as much as we held our last meeting and we were uncertain as to who we will have as an actual applicant, because we had people that actually rescinded their applications, it's nice that we did have two people that came forward. In particular, my second of David is I'm relying upon his experience. Some of that experience was in this interviewing session. It came out where you can hear it, and also looking for this council to have some continuity. One of the things that was stated it was talked about volunteerism. What I would like to do and see is, particularly with Alan stepping forth, is that we encourage participation still from him, from others that are there to come forward, because that's a big part of what we're facing, particularly with the state deficit budget. Our town is going to have to give a little bit more where you may not necessarily get compensated in a means financially. And so with that, I have no further comment.
I'd like to call for a voice vote, if that's okay with you, Tim.
A roll call vote?
Roll call
Yes,
vote.
that's fine.
Is that okay?
Do that, Judy.
Councilmember Parker,
Yes.
Marquez,
No.
Martinez,
Yes.
Panzea,
No.
And so therein lies our quandary with our vote being tied. Appeals to our attorney.
Well, you, actually, you have until December 26th to make the appointment or call for the special election. So you can decide to have an election tonight. You can say we want to have more applicants, try again. You have a lot of options. The one legal requirement is that December 26th date that you make a decision by.
That's the date. That day, the appointment has to be made.
Right, there's nothing about
Yeah.
getting applications in at a certain time or really anything else.
So we technically could take applications up till, like, say, 5 o'clock or noon or whatever.
Or
we
even
wanted
at the
to
meeting.
that day.
Conceivably, you could even appoint somebody who didn't apply but came in and said, hey, I just heard about this and want to do it. So you have a lot of latitude.
Well,
The one legal requirement is you make a
By
decision
December
by
26th?
December 26th.
Let me ask this question. I read the governmental code that under these type of circumstances, particularly we're looking at fulfilling an appointment process, that it would require for a quorum for all four of us. In other words, if there were 3 council members, this is something that I picked up and looked at in the event that we did have this type of situation.
Well, you could have a 2-to-1 vote, in that the person who got the 2 votes would get the appointment.
On this appointment
On
process?
yes.
That's
Because
clarified on this type of specific issue?
it's an old guy, I think it's an 1867 case that says
You remember that?
This abstention or silence is acquiescence to the will of the majority that voted.
Right, the majority that showed up.
There's no newer
vote.
precedent than that? Because I know that there was a specific guide for certain emergency procedures, if there were certain resolutions and ordinances, that you would have to have, at least if there's only a quorum of 3, that it would necessitate a majority 3-0 vote.
Right.
So you're saying under the guide for this
For
particular
this-
appointment,
for this-
it doesn't necessitate
It
that?
does not require, right?
Three votes could make the decision.
Okay, and then my only other question then would be, if we have no additional applicants by the day after Christmas, then we're forced to go to an election process
Correct.
nevertheless.
Right.
well, Tom, we don't have to wait till then.
No, you don't have, no.
Because I'm ready to make a motion right now that we have a special election. Because I think that's the only way that the public is going to get involved and they're going to feel satisfied. I'm sorry for the cost and everything else, but if we have to take it to a special election, that's the direction I want to go.
You can call that anytime.
And
before
I
that
so
date.
make the motion that it's time for a special election.
Do we have a second
I
to
would
Bob's
second-
motion?
I would second that with further discussion before we call for the question. I think we were placed in a position to use our discretion, and certainly with the advent of the roll call vote being 2-2, I think it's only prudent, even though it's going to cost us the great deal amount of money it is, and I think it's cost prohibitive. I feel unfortunate that we weren't able to come to a vote tonight. That's the only way
It's the
that it
only
has to
fair
go
one.
back to the people and not be resolved here. That's the only way, so I'll second that motion.
We better have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Marquez?
No.
Patino?
Yes.
Fantasias?
No. What I'd like to do is leave it open for till the 26th, and we'll go from there.
Is that a motion?
Can we do that since we just knocked down the election, or how does that work, Tom?
Yeah, you still haven't agreed
You still
yet.
have until,
So I guess you'd want, if you want to go that route, you want to also have a meeting
Okay, then,
sometime.
if we are still at an impasse on the 26th,
Then it automatically goes to.
okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I would
accept-
agree with that.
I accept
Yes.
that.
And just on this issue, because we are at an impasse, I want to make a comment and make a statement about a letter I received. I received a poignant letter from a citizen that said there is a growing concern about the possibilities of a shadow government trying to influence and control city government. And here's what I mean by that matter. Please consider these points. And that's all I'll quote from the particular letter. Some of the reasons people have, some of the problems they do have with government is just on this impasse we just had. And I think that my position is with my colleague here, since we weren't able to make a decision, is that it should go to the vote. Now, whether or not some things occur between now and the time of the 26th of the deadline that changes our positioning where we don't have a 2-2 vote, I can tell you kind of hard and fast right now, I really don't see anything in particular that's going to come up to change that.
Won't change mine.
And so, given that, I don't see any particular reason for us to set an additional special meeting. We're coming up on the Christmas season for a new year. I'm inundated with spending time with my family. I'm certain all of you that are here are going to be inundated spending time with your family. So I'm not going to concede to have a special meeting for an appointment, given the late hour of Christmas time. Therefore, that leaves us with a quorum of 3. Now, if the 3 of you are considering that where you will apply yourself for a special meeting, then so be it. But I'm laying it on the line right now. I will not be present.
You're not available on the 26th, and Tim.
The day after Christmas, no.
Bob, are you available that day, or?
I'm available, but I'm not going to change my position because my position is that the citizens of this town should have the opportunity to vote for the person that they want on this council. And it's quite obvious that we're in an impasse, and I think it's only fair to them to give them that opportunity, you know, that to vote for the person that they believe should be the council member.
I would tend to agree with you, Bob, but, I'd sure love to save the cost of the election. So since we do have till the 26th, I think we should, give it one more shot and see what we can do.
I think that opportunity to save the cost prohibitive election just came before us. Mind you, we came to an impasse on the vote, but what you just stated, I concur with, and that's why we stated that we would go to the appointment process in the first place, but we just had that application where we did open it up for citizens. We had 2 applicants. For whatever reason, we're at the impasse based on our votes. The opportunity has come and passed as far as I'm concerned.
Charles, do you have any
Well,
more comments?
The only thing I'm going to say is as one vote, I would like to see us extend the time period. I know we had applications tonight, and I, as one individual council member, didn't feel comfortable with the answers that I heard tonight on the pressing issues that are coming before us, that I felt that I didn't feel comfortable. I did not. And I didn't hear anything tonight that made me decide one way or another as far as who I was going to vote for. It just didn't happen. And that's how I feel on that. If it comes to the point where we're at the 30-day and we have to go for a special election, then so be it. But we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Well, I think
That's-
we are at that point,
Wow.
because Tim has stated he's not going to change his position. I'm not going to change my position. It's going to be left up to the citizens of this town, as far as I'm concerned. That's the bottom line.
Any other comments?
No, I have nothing further. Just as we said, our responsiveness and responsibilities are to the citizens. They'll make the decision. I'm certain whatever decision they make will be the right one.
So, Charles and Bob, are you available for a meeting on the 26th then? Or?
I'm available, but I don't see the purpose. I mean, I'll come, but I'm not going to change my position.
Can I ask quickly, just point for our city attorney, would be appropriate at this point, since there's discussion on this matter, to have a motion made whether or not to extend it to the 26th?
Right, yeah, that's where we
based
need
on
to
what has
go
happened.
Next.
And see if, I think I kind of, from what I'm hearing, where it might go, but I think that might, I don't think you can just say we're going to have that. I think probably you should make a motion to say, are we going to extend it until the 26th? Is that correct?
Need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me ask for a further clarification before that's posed from the city attorney. Does this council need to concede whether or not we're going to have a special meeting? I know anyone from the council can call a special meeting, but for this particular purpose, what you're saying is to clarify, is there any need to extend the application process, which will come in motion form?
Well, I think it's more a practical matter than anything else.
Just go through the
You won't
motion.
have any more, you wouldn't have any more applicants at this point without some,
Type of extension?
Right.
yeah.
It's kind
So
of,
legal, again, that's
they
not
go
a legal
together.
requirement, but that's just a practical issue. The only legal thing is making that call by the 26th.
Yeah.
Anything else in between is,
I think if you're going to make a motion to extend it, then automatically if you're going to extend it, you have to call a special meeting. And it would be appropriate to make that call at this time.
Well, let me call for a point of order then, and you can clarify. As a facilitator of our meeting, which is our mayor, and in the protocol of motions and seconding of motions, where does the mayor stand rather than on just voting as far
mayor
as
can make or second
motion or
motions.
seconding
Yeah,
in our
anytime,
motion?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a motion then?
I move that we extend the filing time up until the 26th of December.
And I will second that motion. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Parker?
No.
Marquez?
Yes.
And, no. Martinez?
No.
Pandazio?
Yes.
There you have it, another impasse. So that motion dies on impasse.
That's why you have 5 councilmen.
We're trying to get.
With
So
that
yes,
given,
it is-
unless there's further discussion, I'm assuming that says we're going to have a special election. Is that correct,
Tom, that's,
Well,
Tom?
again, somebody can call a special meeting in the interim.
between now
without
and the 26th.
applications. You know, I mean, we have the kind of the extremely unusual situation of having to notice it Christmas Day.
In legalese, that's what we term out as a loophole. I brought
Yeah,
that up.
right.
I know that there is the fact that you can call a special meeting. Whether or not there'll be enough council members in attendance to hold the meeting for a quorum is the question. I think that's been clearly answered in redundancy. In other words, we've repeated it over and over. We're at an impasse, people.
Well-
And so my colleagues, either one of you like to do that,
That's
you're
fine.
more than welcome
Yeah.
to.
I'll ask that we have a special meeting. If we don't have a quorum, then so be it.
That's fine.
But I'll ask that we do have the meeting on the 26th.
Okay. At 7 o'clock?
It's fine.
Everything
Okay.
is copacetic there? Okay. I guess we better call our applicants back before we continue the meeting.
You wanna go get Mike?
Tom, hypothetical question.
Uh-huh.
Let's say that only one candidate actually comes forward to run. There still has to be election.
Depends on who's at the meeting and how many votes.
No, I think you're saying
If there was
you-
a special election.
special election, yeah,
Oh.
you still have to hold the election because there's a potential for write-in
Yeah.
candidates also.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll cost us the money regardless.
Yeah.
What? Money
It's,
well spent.
it's
on a
money well
purpose.
spent, so the citizens of this town have an opportunity to do what they think is right.
What's that?
I guess Judy was asking, we didn't extend the deadline. Is there anything that you want staff to do in the interim? I guess there's nothing we can do because there was no direction, so.
Well, let me ask a point of clarification. We came to an impasse on that particular issue. that we
Tim,
saw-
before we,
or our candidates.
I'd just like to thank both candidates for coming tonight, for their applications, but we seem to be at a deadlock. We're deadlocked 2-2. So we're trying to figure out extend or having a special election, but it looks like we're going to be leaning towards a special election. Tim?
I was just going to clarify, and just so that the two of you know, thank you, Alan, and thank you, David. You were actually nominated in the second where we came up with the 2-2 impasse. With the onset of the application, which we set a deadline for applicants for this coming to an impasse, therefore it died. It can't become a part of an agenda item for a meeting, a special meeting, when that particular issue, as a form of motion by this council, has died. Point of clarification.
Are you talking about the application?
For an applicant to fill an appointment for the city council just became before us in the form of a motion, and it died as an impasse.
Mm-hmm.
So what?
The body still has the opportunity to make an appointment by the 26th, regardless of what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah, the key is, Councilmember Parker, if you wanted to, you could go outside right now, pull somebody off the street, and if you
For
had
the
3
private
votes,
purpose.
without even asking them a question, you could appoint them. There's no procedure that is set
Right.
up for the appointment by the government code. So it's completely up to you. So you could, there's nothing that says you have to accept applications or go through any process
Right.
at all.
It's just the
So-
appointment process for someone to fill a seat.
Right.
And to be rational and prudent, this is a process that we've
Correct.
chosen, which I think
Correct.
makes sense.
Correct.
Right, it just says that it must be filled within 30 days of
That's the only thing there
verification
is.
of the
Yeah,
election.
It's
That's all.
wide open.
Technically, that's all
Yeah.
it says.
So even though the application process is not extended, technically if somehow somebody came in, or you brought somebody in on the 26th, and there were either 3 out of 4 votes, or I might add, since you said you may not be there, 2 out of 3 votes could potentially appoint that council member.
So we're scheduled
Okay.
for a meeting on the 26th at 7 o'clock. Whoever can show up. That's as it stands right now. Any other comments or questions?
Just one more question, just to clarify, as Councilmember Parker was talking about, if he does not show up on the 26th, you do still have a quorum of 3.
Not necessarily.
If there are 3, well, I'm saying if
If
the other
there
3
are.
showed up. I'm hearing that I
I
understand
don't
that.
plan on showing up.
Yeah, okay. But if you did, I'm just saying that a 2-1 vote could then put someone in.
And
not
I
gonna-
understand that.
I just want to make sure everybody
It does not make
understands all
any
of the
sense for me to come
ramifications.
forward on the 26th.
I understand.
They're absolutely asinine.
And
Yeah.
I understood that.
I
point.
just want to make sure everyone understood
Yes.
all the ramifications,
Yes.
so.
Okay, I think that's settled. I think. Oh. Okay. We'll move on to item number 9, items from the city manager.
I do not have anything to add other than just on I will mention to you, I'm going to email you on this, on the streetscape issue. We did return the retention on Friday, with the exception of on Friday we received a stop notice from one of the subcontractors who had not been paid, but he had only not been paid his 10%. So the contractor was holding his 10%, which we were holding from the contractor. So anyway, we pulled out that amount, which was, I believe, about $46,000, as I recall, right? And according to law, we are holding that until it is released. So But that was done. We have had communication back to our city attorney on a couple of issues. As you know, we are requiring the bond to be held from 1 year. He did not object to the bond. He did object, however, stating that in his opinion, the project was completed on May. I don't know if he gave an exact date, but in May of 2002, rather than the November 13th, November 12th date that we filed the notice of completion. I don't think it's a big issue. The good thing about it is he did also state in his letter that he is hopeful that that's not an issue, that we're going to be able to resolve this. So that was the good news of the letter. So that's all I have.
Okay, items from city council members. Bob, we'll start with you.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank both candidates for coming forward. You know, it's difficult to get people to come forward like you have tonight, and I thank you, and I really do appreciate it. I think both of you would make excellent candidates, and of course, there's a difference of opinion here, and it has nothing to do with your qualifications. It just has to do with, we may think that one might be a little bit better than the other, but I do thank you and appreciate you coming forward. And of course, unfortunate we couldn't come up with a decision tonight, but that's the way it works in this type of system, and for good reasons, this is the way it has to be done. But thank you very much.
Charles?
Nothing tonight other than to just ask as follow-up the Highway 33 plan, where we're going to be bringing that back at our next regular meeting.
My plan is to do that at the second meeting in January. However, we may be able to do it then. My plan for the first meeting in January was to have a council orientation and go through some things, since actually it's not really a new council. Charles has been on the council before, but I'd still like to go through that since we're starting a new term. However, we may postpone that now since we do not have a new council, or will not have the new council member appointed by that date, it appears.
My suggestion for that then, with council orientation, that we do it on a side meeting, perhaps over at City Hall, rather than in our former setting here at the chamber.
We can discuss that. Yeah, it's just that I want to do that. I'm thinking now we'll probably wait until we have our 5th council member so we can do that all
How
together.
about we, if my current colleagues that are going to be serving the council, if we can get a concession to concede that we can do that in the side room where we hold our special meetings, I think it's
That's
most
fine.
appropriate.
If I could just mention, there is a short video that I wanted to show too, though, and we have that capability in here. We could rearrange, and you can sit down here if you'd like in a different format, but I think this room is a little bit more comfortable than maybe where the other places where we've met. But like I say, I do have a video that I'd like to show, and some PowerPoint stuff that I'd like to show as part of that if the council is open to that. But if not, we can meet in the other. That's fine.
We'll just make it a little more
Iron it
informal, I
out.
think.
Charles? Tim?
That's fine, since she has the PowerPoint presentation. As far as my items for the council, the recent presentation that was done that I thought was very comprehensive by the Public Works Director on the city storm drain, I'd like to have, and I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I'd like to have a copy of that report and the PowerPoint presentation. The pictures I actually have are from Mr. Lloyd Bigelow. Kind of took a little tour of some of those areas, and I'd like to have that comprehensive report.
Okay. We'll have those printed out for each of the council members.
Okay.
It's no problem.
Yeah, I think all my colleagues would like to see that too. And then the only other item I have is this Fire 2 wire system, this internet system that the city now has.
Yes.
That is a satellite system. I did notice their antenna on the water well. Is that where it's located?
The water tower, yes.
Water tower. I was just wondering, what is our leasing? Is that first of all something that's the tower antenna that bounces for anybody that wants that kind of service?
That's correct.
And what is our possible leasing agreement, or was that done by a conditional use permit through our planning commission?
No, the agreement was brought through the council. The agreement is that they're allowed to put that there in exchange. They are providing free service to city facilities.
Okay, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see, I don't recall that report in specific, but I'm sure you have it on file. And I'd just like to get a copy of that in coupling with the Public's Work report that I remember.
Okay.
That it, Tim?
That's it, thank you.
I'd just like to thank both candidates for showing up tonight and giving their report statements. Thank you very much. And remind everybody that we will have that AT&T cable meeting on January the 7th at 7 o'clock right here. And hopefully AT&T representatives will be here. So it'll be a kind of an open forum for public comment. Anybody has gripes or whatever about the cable service. And just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And with that, I will entertain motion for
Move that we
adjournment.
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.